Today we are going to be talking about theory and scientific research. What is theory? Why do we have to bring in theory? Why do we have to talk about theory when we are talking about conducting research? Now, this is the bedrock of inquiry, actually. The what is theory in itself. And if we look at the systematic explanation of what theory is, it provides a structured framework for understanding phenomena, connecting observations with broader patterns and principles. Because when you want to conduct a research, you need to be able to situate your research. You won't just be say, I want to begin my research now, and you are just running without having a guide, without knowing where you're going to go, without knowing you're going to go about it, without knowing what are the core principles that you have to follow. Research is not just conducted arbitrarily. It has to be systematic. It has to be systematic. So it provides structured framework. There must be a structured framework. It's like when you want to erect a building, you must have done a framework, maybe a kind of a sketch of that building. Then from the sketch of that building, you have to transfer it into maybe a 3D model that you can understand, which the contractors can follow. The same way is your research that you want to build. You have to start from a framework scientifically in a systematic order. Now, theorizing process will include constructing and refining explanations through critical engagement, testing ideas against evidence and alternative perspectives. Now, there are some of the time that you will have to say that, okay, this is what I am thinking. This is the way I think this thing exists. But your thinking alone is not enough. There's a need for you to engage with what is in existence, what you have met. Your research it may be novel, but your research, no matter how novel your research is, some people may have done, not even may have, might have done some meaningful works around that. So there is a need for you to see what has happened, to see some of the ways by which you have to build the blocks on your research. So constructing and refining explanations through you have to do critical engagements to test ideas against the evidence available. Now, what you do in literature is you look for evidences relating to your work. But as you check existing evidences, there's also a need for you to also do a test using your own data to confirm what you have read previously. Oh, people have been saying that, this is what used to happen. Oh, well, that may be true in the developed countries, but what about in the African continent? Now, when you come to African continent as well, you also found some literature that have also established that, oh, this is the way this thing used to be. But that is not enough. What about in the Nigerian context? It may be different when it has to do with coming back to Nigeria. It may not be the same because of possibly our culture, possibly the environment, and so many other things that may influence that. So now, the purpose of the theory now, the purpose is to achieve deeper understanding and provide reasoning arguments about how and why things happen in our world. The research is to be able to, it's just like the word research, repeat the search. You want to repeat the search, but then you must be able to situate it. You must be able to say that, oh, this is the way we discover this. You must be able to have reasonable arguments to say about the how and why some of those concepts happen. So we're going to be looking at some of those things as we go on. So now, to navigate the research landscape, we have some paradigms which we really have to follow. Some paradigms that we have to follow, which are like after the first step, you have to go to the second step, the third step, and the fourth step. These are the key elements you need in your complete thesis that you have to put together in your thesis. So understanding these paradigms is very important. Now, what are they? The paradigms, they shape how we approach research through interconnected dimensions. And what are we saying? One of them that is key is ontology. Ontology. And what is ontology? Ontology talks about or asks questions about what exists and can be known. What exists really? This research I want to carry out. Do God himself exist? Maybe you want to ask questions about the existence of God. We want to know, do God exist? And is this something that we can know? So these are some of the things that ontology want to bother itself about what exists, about a particular being that exists and things like that, and what can be known. Then epistemology will now ask questions about how do we acquire the knowledge that we know, which is talking about how do we acquire the knowledge that God exists. That is epistemology for you. That okay, how do we acquire that knowledge that in about what ontology said that God himself exists? How do we acquire that knowledge? Those are the questions that epistemology would like to treat. Then the next one is about the methodology. Then, if you believe that God exists, say, and we have already established how we acquire the knowledge that God exists, then how do we then conduct the research? Then the last one, which I missed out here, is the methods. Then the method has to do with what are the nitty-gritty of the techniques that I have to put together to achieve that purpose. So these are the 4 things that must fall in line. Look at those people sending messages. They are just, the lectures are going on, and they're just asking questions about it. So these are some of the things. These are the 4 elements that must be part of your research. Examples of some of those paradigms include positivism, which is about objective reality. In that case, we decide to use qualitative method. We are going to be talking about that the more as we go along. In a situation whereby you already know that this thing exists, you have seen data regarding that. That then this is more of quantitative method. We already know that when they put 2 plus 2 together is 4. So that is positivism. But interpretism is about multiple realities, that there are a number of realities depending on who is saying what. The way you will view things will be different from the way other people will view it. The interpretation differs. Take, for example, now that maybe you want to assess the way I teach. What you want to assess, what you like about the way I teach, may be about my pedagogy. Somebody else may be about maybe the way I emphasize things. Somebody else may say that maybe it's too firm. There, I don't like the way it used to be too firm. Somebody may say that it used to be too fast. And that may be what another person will cherish. That I don't like a lecture that will be saying, you see, and all of that. So what that interpretivism is saying is like there are multiple realities. And in that case, when you want to carry out a research relating to that, you have to follow qualitative approach, whereby you go deeper into understanding the concept from different perspectives. Then we also have the critical realism, which underlying structures is about mixed method. You want to bring in some elements of quantitative, bring in some facts. Then you also want to bring the elements of let people tell you what they know about that concept, the elements of qualitative. When you marry the two together, this is when the critical realism it's important. Then we also have the pragmatism, which is talking about the practical outcomes. Flexible. This is flexible in nature in a way. We are going to be seeing more of that as we go on. Excuse me. So, your chosen paradigm fundamentally shapes research questions, methods, and interpretation. So, the onus is on you as a researcher to decide on what you want to do. That's why it's a research. That's why you are the owner of your work. Your supervisor is only there to guide your thoughts, to tell you how to go about. That's why it is important for you to be equipped with some of this coursework to be able to know how you are going to bring all of these things together. Now, let us talk more about the ontology, which is about asking questions about what is real. I've already explained it previously. Ontology is the study of being, what exists, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. And it poses questions like, are we dealing with objective truths or subjective constructions? What is the essential nature of the things we encounter? What is the nature of that thing? Do we know it? Do we want to say that, oh, this thing did really exist because we can touch it, we can feel it, we know it? Now, they have taught us in science that we have other planets. Of recent, some people in America, some what do you call it now, astronauts, they just went to I can't remember, was it? I think they went to the moon and they came back to report to us. We only believe them because they
Yes.
said yes. They said that they had carried that out. We have not been there ourselves. We only believe what they have said. So then the for example, we have different in arts, for example, in arts, or maybe in the work of arts. When you take painting, for example, you want to ask question about, is a painting a physical object, or is it an idea or an experience? Does the artwork itself exist independently or through our perception of it? These are some of the questions that ontology will ask you to think about as you want to carry out that your research. But when it has to do with the people in law, for example, they want to say that, does justice exist as an objective idea? Or is it a social construct shaped by power dynamics in terms of what people are saying or what people used to know? Shaped by power dynamics and cultural context, or because of the culture. These are some of the things, because when you are saying justice can be subjective most of the time. It can either be objective or subjective. These are the questions that you have to ask yourself when you want to carry out your research. That the justice we are talking about, does it exist as an objective idea or is subjective? Subjective has to do with when it has to be like a social construct, what people used to know, what people used to do. For example, now we used to say that we have a number of religions in this country and everywhere else. We have the Islamic religion, we have the Christian religion, we also have the traditional religion. Now, in that society, in each of those clusters of religions, they have their beliefs. They have the way they run their religion. They have the way they like, there is Sharia law, for example. Sharia law is different from the normal standard English law that we're using elsewhere in the country. So justice in those instances will be dependent on what exists in that society. Also in what do we call it now? Also in different environments as well. Some people believe that it's a taboo for you to eat what now? To eat a certain type of food. I think I read in the Bible somewhere where some people were saying, some things they are forbidden. You cannot eat it. You cannot do that. So also is in this part of the world. The Deltans, they usually come around to this part of Nigeria to buy pigs. But pig, you rarely can find that in the northern part. Why? Because they do not believe that. So same for justice. Justice can be like, do we say that does it exist as an objective idea, or it is being influenced by social constructs? Same for humanities as well. In the humanities, they may want to ask questions about what is the nature of truth, you know, in historical accounts or literal interpretations. Do they want to look at what exists, or they just want to interpret it literally? Are these fixed or constantly evolving? So these are some of the questions that people may likely be asking depending on their domain. So now that is talking about ontology. Now, looking at the aspect of the epistemology, which will usually ask questions about how do we know what we know. The epistemology will ask questions about how do we know what we know. It is the theory of knowledge, how we acquire that knowledge, the scope of that knowledge and its legitimacy, whether that knowledge is legitimate. That is the concern of epistemology. It also asks further questions or fundamental questions about how can we know what we claim to know? And then what are the sources and limits of our knowledge? What are the pros and cons of our knowledge? And which ways of knowing are trustworthy? Do you know? So these are the things you have to explain, you have to situate in your thesis. And that's why some of the theses that people, that will not receive the favor of the supervisors when they miss some of these elements. These elements are very important. You have to start from the ontology and then dovetailing that into your epistemology, which will answer questions about how do you acquire that knowledge and what is the scope of the knowledge, that you are using. So if you look at this as well, how do we gain knowledge about a sculpture's meaning? For example, now in the work of art, maybe there is a particular sculpture. There is this Awolowo sculpture somewhere within Obafemi University here. We have also seen, even around us in this university as well, and some other places, I have seen a sculpture a woman that will carry a baby and be breastfeeding. Another one will carry a baby at her back, and will carry calabash on the head. Now, how do we interpret? Because all of these things, they're not just there for just desire, for aesthetics. They have meanings. Now, the question that they're asking is, how do we gain knowledge about how this is? In fact, those ones I just explained, they are even better. There are some artworks that when you see them, they will be like they are just writing nonsense. But it's not nonsense. When you see the work of art, there are some paintings that some people will put in their houses, you may not know the meaning. But when they give you the interpretation, you will be like, wow. Now, the question is, when it has to do with the work of art, how do we gain that knowledge about the meaning that they ascribe to those paintings or they ascribe to the sculptors? Is it through direct sensory experience or historical context or critical analysis by experts? So these are the things that must be put in perspective in your work. Then the people in law, for example, how is legal knowledge established and validated? How do you establish legal knowledge? Because when it has to do with a particular case, do you have to talk about precedents? Most of the time, they may use precedents. Oh, during the time, I think that was the time I was also doing, what do we call it now? Business law. And I think I read a case of, I can't remember precisely, but a case of somebody, he asked somebody to assist him to please take care of a particular house. The people in law will remember this law. Please, can you take care of this horse for me? Oh, I'll be back very soon in the next few minutes. And that person did not get back until about 3 days or a week. Now, the onus lies on the person that is keeping that horse to keep it alive. If I get back, maybe the next 1 month, I want to get my horse back alive. Lo and behold, the person that was asking his colleague to keep the horse for him, he did not say, please feed this horse on my behalf. There was no money, that he left for that. At the end of the day, to cut the long story short, the lawyers here, you can please bear me witness if what I'm saying is still valid, is correct or not. I think I read somewhere in business law at some point when I was trying to do ICANN then, and I think I did ICANN Foundation. At the end of the day, the court ruled that it is the responsibility of the person keeping that horse to ensure that the horse is kept alive. And the man was buying food for the horse and kept the horse alive. And I think the plaintiff or whatever, or the plaintiff was claiming that he's not going to be responsible to pay for for all the money he expended to take care of the horse. No, it's not done. That's not the way. So what am I saying here is this. When it has to do with legal knowledge established and validated, how do you establish those laws? How do you validate? Is it through precedents and case laws that have existed? Most of the time, that's what lawyers do. So all of this, you have to situate that in your work? How do you want to do it? Is it through legislation and statutes, or expert testimony and evidences? So these are some of the things that must be put in proper perspective as you are putting down your concepts, especially writing your chapters 1 to 3, even up to chapter 4 as you are reporting. Because while you are reporting as well, you are expected to be quoting cases, referring to cases that relate to your findings when it has to do with people in faculty of law. So also in humanities, education, and few other places, you want to know, how do we interpret ancient texts? Is it through philology, which has to do with the knowledge of how do we understand language? Who was the first person to say that A is A, Ha is I in Yoruba, and all of that, and the phonetics, that that is D? Is it through that, or through linguistic analysis, or historical context, or reader response theory and research? So these are the questions that epistemology is situated to answer in your work. Like I said, don't forget, we started from ontology. You have to define that ontology in the concept of your research. At the same time, you also have to situate the corresponding epistemology for that, which is how you acquire that knowledge, and then how about the scope of that as well and its legitimacy. And then the third one is about the research methodology. Research methodology is different from research methods, like I've explained from the beginning. So research methodology is about the strategy or overarching approach that guides your research, linking all your philosophical assumptions together to practical steps. And it will ask questions about what is the overall plan for investigating reality and acquired knowledge. This is what your research methodology will do. It will bridge the gap between your abstract philosophical questions and concrete research practices. It will show all the elements of what you want to put together, the how you want to put it together, and the expected results. It's going to guide you into all of that. So the methodology would harvest, would dovetail from the ontology to the epistemology, and everything. You bring everything together, situate them in your methodology. Now let's look at this. Considering the work of art as well, a phenomenology-based approach looks at your personal or lived experience when you view art, how it feels, what it means to you. For example, when you view the work of art, it could be your emotions that will determine the interpretation you give to it. It could be the way you perceive it. And if you look at all of these things are subjective in a way. And it is from the way you perceive it that will dovetail into the way you interpret the meaning of the concept. So, which means the interpretation you as a person you are going to give to that work of art will be different from your neighbor. So in a way, that is somehow tending towards subjectivity. So the corresponding approach for that will be moving towards qualitative research, which we are still going to talk about, and correct on. So the other one is a form. We can also have another aspect of that in the work of art, a formalism approach, which ignores personal feelings, instead focuses on the structure of the artwork itself. You don't want to be biased now because of your feelings. You are leaving that out. But now you are being objective, looking at the color of that artwork, or the shape, or the lines, or the balance and the technique. You are looking at some of the features to bring the interpretation that you would use to bring out your interpretations. Then when it comes to law, a critical legal studies methodology examines how law perpetuates inequalities, contrasting with a positivist approach focused on legal rules and procedures. Positivist is about being objective. That is the focus. this is what we used to have. If this law goes this way, this is what should be the, like, for example, now we have what we call manslaughter. There's a penalty for manslaughter. There's also a penalty for murder, because the lawyers will tell us that those are two different things. So there are different penalties for all of that. So that one, it is being objective. There are standards for some of these things. And also in humanities as well, it can also be, we have a number of ways by which all of this can be explained, which is also written there as like I have it here. So as I was saying, the fourth one, we have talked about ontology. We have also talked about epistemology. We have talked about methodology. Now, the fourth one is research methods. Like I said, methodology is different from research methods. Now, what is research methods now? Methods are the specific techniques and procedures used to collect and analyze data within a chosen methodology. Can you see that? It's specific technique or specific techniques and procedures to collect and analyze your data within a chosen methodology. Within your methodology, we are still going to talk about it in this course. You may decide to go for qualitative. That is the chosen methodology is referring to here. You may want to say that in my work, I am going to use qualitative analysis, qualitative study. Somebody else may say that, oh, following my ontology and my epistemology, quantitative is better for me. I want to go for quantitative. That's why this definition is saying here that methods are specific techniques and procedures used to collect and analyze data within a chosen methodology. If you have chosen your qualitative method or quantitative method, or both is mixed. When you say that, oh, fine, I think my work is more of qualitative, I need more of qualitative and also quantitative as well. When you mix them together, you use mixed theory and then mixed analysis, then that is your choice of methodology that you want to use. But beyond that, there must be specific techniques that you have to explain, that you have to put forward, and procedure that you want to use after you have decided about the methodology you want to use. Now, look at this. Visual analysis of formal elements. When you are considering the work of art, for example, now, usually for people in arts, do you want to talk about visual analysis of formal elements? Is that what you want to do? You want to do visual analysis of formal elements, or you want to do archival research into an art's life? You want to do archival research. You want to go into the archives, into the work, into the artist's life and context. Or you want to do an audience survey to gauge reception and interpretation. Reception is about adoption of a concept. You want to do audience survey to gauge reception and interpretation. Do you want to conduct a survey? Is that what you want to do in your research? Then in law as well, it could be that you want to use case law analysis, examining precedents. That may be the approach, the method you want to use. It has to be stated. Or do you want to do statutory interpretation of legislation? Is that what you intend to do? It could be both. You may want to use multiple methods. All of this has to be stated, especially in your research, in your chapter 3. Or interviews with legal professionals to understand practice. Or do you want to conduct interviews with legal professionals? And when you decide that you want to conduct an interview, that means that you have decided that in your methodology, you want to use maybe qualitative. Because qualitative, the method to carry out, the research method, or the method rather, to carry out qualitative methodology or qualitative approach is through interviews. That's one of the ways by which you can gather your data for that, and a number of other things along that line. Then in humanities as well, it could be that they want to do textual analysis of literary devices or they want to do discourse analysis of language patterns. The people in humanities, they understand that better. Or they want to do oral history interviews to capture lived experiences. They want to do oral interviews. Maybe they want to go to the old ones, the old people, to ask them questions about maybe a particular milestone of what happened during 1914, the amalgamation in Nigeria. After 1940, maybe we have somebody who is over 100 years old and they want to go to them and then to look to get from the horse's mouth to tell them about the history of a particular concept and a number of other things like that. Now, let's look at the interconnectedness, how all of these things link together. These four concepts form an interconnected hierarchy where each level shapes and constrains the next, creating a coherent philosophical framework for research. They cannot stand alone. You have to integrate all of this. All of this, if any of this is missing in your work, it is not a complete thesis. Because there must be a flow. All of this has to be situated in your work. So the ontology, like I said, will begin the research, which will be, you have to situate that, which has to talk about the ask question about the reality. Is this real? And then that will be followed by epistemology, which asks question about how do we know what we know? And then the methodology are the strategies that you have to put forward, the strategies that you have to state, the strategies you want to use to carry out your research. Is it qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method, and all of that? Then the methods are the tools you really intend to use, the specific tools you intend to use. Take, for example, that you want to you want to conduct a qualitative research, for example, and you want to go and bury yourself among when I say bury, I mean in quotes, you want to go and be among the people of a particular culture to see the way they live and relate in the society. Maybe they have said that, they used to say that in Shekurudu, they used to say that there is a festival that they call Odun Shalijeje. Yes, I don't know whether you know the meaning of that. They used to say that there is a particular festival in Ikorodu that you have to, when you come together, you can be proud of your concubine. That yes, your husband will be there, and then your husband will know the concubine. I don't know if that is true. I don't know if that is correct. That is what we used to hear. But if you as a researcher want to confirm that, you have to go and bury yourself there. You have to go and live among them. We call that kind of research, we call it I think, okay, I'll still remember. Anytime I remember, I'll let you know. If I do not remember here, still ask me on our platform. I'll mention. So it's very, very important. So to do that, you have to bury yourself among those people that live there to be able to ensure that, oh, this is the way indeed they carry out their culture and all of that. So if your ontology assumes reality is socially constructed, you'll be like, what is all of this? What I'm saying, I'm going to explain to you further. If your ontology assumes reality is socially constructed, which means relativist ontology, which means if your ontology believes that what you have believed is influenced by the society, that is referred to as the relativist ontology. That's what it's saying. If your ontology is pushing that what you have believed, what do you think is the reality, is actually being influenced by the society. Whatever they say is what is correct, is the reality. Some people used to say that if you say you do not know, you do not know. Only when we present you as somebody who knows, that we would say that, oh, this person knows this thing. Even though that may not be the reality, but that's the politics of the society. That's the influence of the society. That's why the society, I don't know, there's an adage in Yoruba that if they're saying many people are saying something negative about a particular person, the next person will not even ask question about that thing. What people are saying will be running with that kind of a thing. Other people will be running with that kind of a thing. Any of my dad, Mama Bashere, this is the way. They will not confirm that. But because the society is saying that this is Bosheman Sheni family in one, it will believe that that person as well will run that way. So what we're saying in essence here is this: if your ontology now assumes reality is socially constructed, is being influenced by the society, then your epistemology might favor subjective understanding. Which is, and if you follow that, that means that is subjectivist epistemology. And your subjective understanding means that that is not the, even though it's the reality, but it is not objectively decided. It is subjective because this is the decision of many people. And then it also says further that when you now have that situation, then it will lead you to a qualitative methodology using methods like interviews and ethnography. Ethnography is the word I was going to say. When you have decided that, then you have to use in your methodology, use qualitative method. And then the qualitative methodology rather. Now the specific method that will now go in line with that will either be through interviews, going to your respondents to conduct interviews, or going to live with them in that community, in that society, and which is called ethnography. That is the word I was trying to remember. That's the word, ethnography. So those are ways by which you can carry out your qualitative research, either by interview or by burying yourself in that community, depending on what you want to work on. Now, as we are trying to round up, let's look at the interplay of theory and research. Understanding how theoretical frameworks and empirical application from inform and strengthen each other. These are some of the things we have discussed previously, and I think in URM 901. But then we just want to knock them together here. These are some essential skills that you have to acquire as PhD students. Research design has to do with designing and organizing research projects with clear objectives, appropriate methods, and feasible timelines. The first thing you have to ask yourself is you have to situate the research you want to carry out by asking some pertinent questions about that research. And those are the things you want to provide solutions to, you want to answer. Those are the questions your research want to answer. So as you want to do that, you have to dovetail or convert those research questions into clear, specific objectives. After you have situated your objectives coming from the overarching research questions, then you have to bring in appropriate methods. And then as you do that, it's also important for you to have feasible timelines. As PhD students, if you do not have timelines for your work, that for my literature review, I'm going to spend 1 or 2 months, and for my research methodology, I'm going to use this number of months, and all of that. For my data collection, there must be timeline for that's that. Then the next one is about your literature reviews. Literature reviews want to do some findings. You want to know about what literature exists, which is in line with your work. And then you want to also do some evaluations as well in your literature, because there are several ways by which you carry out your literature review. I think we talked about this last semester, N01. In N01, there are a number of approaches to conducting your literature review, which is not part of what we're going to be talking about here. But then, literature review is very important. You have to bring in your findings. You want to do some evaluations, and you want to synthesize your existing knowledge to identify gaps. And this is where people used to miss it. It is when you have done all of this that you will be able to position your research correctly. People will say that I do not have ideas about what I want to work on. I do not have ideas about the method I intend to use. I do not have idea about the title I want to use. Why? Because you have not read enough literature around what you are thinking. If you have read enough literature, you will have 1001 ways of carrying out that your research. And then you can then narrow it down to say that this is what I want to work on. Yes, somebody in 2025, in 2020 has worked on this. He has used this method. And another person in 1995 has used this method. He has worked on this. And you have to look at some of the benefits and the demerits of some of those researches, of those methods that they have used. And now come with your own and say, why? Fine. This person has used this. He has used this. I also want to use this for this reason because this is in line with my work. And based on the fact that I'm going to be collecting my data, indigenous data is what I'm going to be using, working on. So this is more reliable. So that is what will make you an authority because they know that you are not just bringing some of those things arbitrarily. You are not just bringing from your head and say, oh, I like to use qualitative research. It's not that I like. It is not about you. It is about your research. It's about what you have seen in literature, the way it is done. And that is what you want to build on. You are not necessarily going to reinvent the way. You are not necessarily going to repeat what they have done. But yes, you want to ride on the shoulder of the giants to get to where you're going as well as a person. Because your PhD has to there must be some additions. That is why when you are writing your Form A, they will be asking you to write the expected contribution to knowledge from your work. Your PhD must contribute to existing knowledge. And that is why people coming after you will also read your work to say, oh, this is what you have added to knowledge in this context. Then we'll push it forward from there. Now, academic writing. Articulating research clearly, you must be able to articulate your research clearly. That's why today, if you write any line, any single line for me, if it does not make meaning, I will know. And that is the quality of having a PhD. When you are doing your academic writing, it's not just writing any line. If you think that line does not make meaning to you, knock it out or rephrase it or rewrite it. If you want to write any, not because you just want it to be bulky. People will say that they say that it's too light. You have to go and look for more words. Yes, it's true. They may be asking you that because you want to do a PhD and you just want to submit only 100-page document for all your chapters 1 to 5. Who does that? It means you have not done much because in some instances, your literature review alone may be up to 70, 80 pages. But then somebody is bringing an entire thesis, chapters 1 to 500 pages. I don't think anybody wants to take that. Unless in some universities where I did my master's, we had 2 volumes. You first of all do research, your literature review, that's a particular volume. And then another volume is where you're going to have your results, your research methodology, and every other thing. So it means, well, before you submit your thesis, you are bringing in 2 volumes. In that case, it's a different ballgame. But where you're going to have a single document that you're submitted for your research, then it must be sizable, not just bringing anything, but whatever you're going to write, every line must be meaningful. Every line must be intentional. Every line must be relaying a story, the story you are trying to paint, we must understand it. So that is talking about the academic writing research. It must be very clear. Then you have to write persuasively. If I put my pen on paper to write, I can convince you. I will convince you. When I was in the research institute, what do we call it now? In my former place of work before I joined the university, any moment I write to my director general, the man will shake his head and will just append the signature to it and say approved. Because I will write to persuade you, to convince you. I'll put all the evidences, not just writing from the blues. So, and that's the way your thesis has to be situated. You have to write persuasively, convincingly, because you have equipped yourself while you are doing your literature. It won't just come from anywhere. And then it must be appropriate for different audiences and publication formats. Because when you are writing, there is a way you can write for when you are writing as a journalist. But when you are doing academic writing for journals as well, there is a way you also write. But when you are writing your thesis, it also has its own the way by which you write your thesis. That's why We encourage you to understand the concept of thesis writing first before you begin to talk about writing journal articles. Now, when you understand that concept very well, then to now convert that into journal articles is a different ball game entirely. Don't think you will just copy and paste from your thesis and you publish into journal. No, it also has its own format. It also has a way by which you put that together. But then, if you have done your homework well while you are doing your thesis writing, then to convert that to what you send for publications will not be uh, the gap will not be too different. Now, ethical frameworks, you have to apply ethical principles, particularly when conducting research involving human participants or sensitive data. We're also going to have a class on ethical data and all of that as we go on in this class. Now, theory and practice, we have some examples here which I'll permit you to go and have a look at. Applying theoretical lenses. Theories help understand social and political phenomena by providing frameworks for analysis and interpretation, like I said. In law, for example, critical legal theory examines how law reflects and perpetuates power structure. For example, feminist jurisprudence analyzes legal systems through gender lens or through gender relations. In art as well, they also have the way they do theirs as well. You know. Now, understanding social inequality through Marxist is another example of feminist and intersectional theory lenses reveals different dimensions of power and oppression. So what we're talking about here is we have a number of examples which we can leverage on in different faculties, in different departments, and all of that, just like I've explained uh, previously. So now the from idea to output about the research cycle, which is necessary, like I've explained, you have to identify your research questions. You have to develop interesting, influential research questions that address meaningful gaps. Because what you want to do is you want to fill some gap in literature, which you have seen that people have not covered. Because as you want to write your work, you are not just bringing any title from your head. Gone are the days when people would now go to Maduguri, bring a thesis there, tear the cover, put it together for another lecturer in another university in Southwest, and all of that. PhD, people doing first degree may be able to do that successfully in some universities. But when it starts with postgraduate studies, no, there is no lecturer that will ask you to go and bring chapters 1 to 5. No. You have to start together from the concept with your supervisor. You have to start from the concept from the beginning as you go along from the title. And we ask you have to be doing it stages by stages. So what am I saying in essence is you have to identify questions, develop interesting questions, that will influence the gap you want to fill in literature. And then you have to enrich your theory as well to develop and refine theoretical frameworks through empirical investigations. You have to also look for theories that will be in line, that will be in tandem with the work you want to carry out. And let me tell you, in some people may be asking, I think people have asked that question in the past, that how many theories will be sufficient for any research work? How many theories? When you want to see how many theories can you use? Let me tell you that you don't have to talk about all the old theories in the whole world in your work. But for me, what I normally do is I will look at my research questions or my objectives and look for at least one theory that can answer those questions, that can be in line with those questions. So if you have like 4 objectives, I would say you go with 4 theories that can be in line with that. It may not necessarily have to be 1-to-1, mapping of 1-to-1. No, it could be just 2 theories that will be in line with even with the whole 4 objectives. So these are the things you have to define while you are doing and studying in your literature. Then you have to present research. You have to share your findings through conference papers, journal articles, and dissertation. Before you do all of this, before you share your findings through conferences, you must ensure that your thesis is ready first. All of these ones are just like research dissemination after you have settled down with all your PhD. But ordinarily, I think it's a requirement now that you must at least submit one or two papers for maybe conference or journal articles, publication outlet. I am not sure. I think it's a requirement now before you complete your PhD. Because that way, you will have understood how journals could be extracted from your thesis. Journal articles, rather, could be extracted from your thesis and how you can go to conference to present. Do you know it's pride for you and your supervisor if at the end of when you want to go for your final defense, you already have one or two papers published or presented at conferences. It's good for it shows that you have been doing your work consistently, progressively. What do I mean by progressively? After you have completed your literature research, your literature search and review, you can publish that. That can be published. That can be presented in any relevant conference. You know, and at the end of the day, that can be part of what you will quote as part of your references in your thesis, which will be a plot for you. There are some universities you cannot graduate. In fact, there are some universities that will not even ask for your thesis. They do not do their research by thesis, they do it by publications. Once you have like 4 publications, I think you are good to go. If you publish the 4 publications in the first 2 years of your research, then they will set you up for Viva and you are good to go. So that's what you have to be thinking about as well. Don't wait until you finish your defense before you think about, especially for those in academics, before you begin to say, oh, how do we write papers and all of that? That means you have to make sure that in your first year that you have completed your coursework, start your work literature immediately. In the second year, especially the first semester of your second year, ensure that your work is ready and you are ready to go for qualifying in the second semester, in the first semester, or at most the second semester of the second year. So once you have done that, the rest is simple. Then the last thing is to defend your work. Prepare for qualifying examination and defend your research contribution. Your qualifying is not the final defense. Your qualifying is the defense for your proposal. That is this work researchable. Then at qualifying, they can tell you, oh, this is researchable. You can go on with your research. When you have succeeded with your qualifying, then you are good to go for your data collection and finalize your thesis. So these are just like an advice. Practical research guidance. Navigate your research journey with minimal also through structure support and clear processes. And then method skills, acquire research method skills progressively through your PhD program. All of these things are important. When you're on your PhD, that is the right time for you to acquire new knowledge. If you are teaching you what you already know, then of what use is the PhD? If you just come in for PhD and you did not meet any new knowledge, then you have not added to your knowledge. So what we're saying is some of these things that we're teaching you may be new to you. And some of the skills you may need to acquire to be able to do your research successfully, you may have to acquire those skills. For example, now, data analysis. If you don't know how to use SPSS, if that is part of what you use, you may have to go and learn how that is done. If you want to do qualitative study or analysis, if you don't know how to use NVivo or Atlas, that is the right time for you to learn. Don't just contract that aspect out because that's even the kernel. That's the kernel of your thesis. That's the kernel of your work. Because those roadside analysts may not understand your work the way you want to. They can't understand it better than you because you are the owner. That's what we're saying. Then resources and support. Resources are available through your supervisors. Your supervisor are already ahead of you. That's why you cannot know better than your teachers. It's possible for you to know better than your teachers, no doubt. But you can't the experience that your teachers, your lecturers have, you cannot match it. Maybe there's a particular book they have used in the last 10, 20 years, which is still relevant today, which they could just pull out from the shelf and hand over to you to assist you. So these are the things. That's why you have to be the friend of your supervisor. You have to ensure that he's happy. You have to ensure that when he's asking you to do anything, you get that thing done. I've supervised a number of students, at least about 15 master students. And I have about 4 PhD students. I've graduated one already. Some of the experiences has to do with when you correct something now, some unserious students will bring that thing back to you, thinking that you will not know that they have not done it. So when they bring it back, because you already know where you stopped, you will know as a supervisor. So if you are doing that back and forth with your supervisor, there is no way he will not be happy with you. So it's only when your supervisor is happy that, oh, there's a grant here, why don't you apply? You give you opportunity to apply for grants. He will say there is a, what do we call it? An academy somewhere. Yes, I want you to apply for it. They will take you. I'll write letter of recommendation. Those are some of the places where you can gather knowledge. We also went for those things. When I was on my PhD, I went for 2 academies. One in Kenya, fully sponsored by the organizer. Another one in Finland, about 2 weeks also sponsored, everything fully sponsored by the organizers. So these are some of the things. Well, I got grants on my PhD as well. It can be provided by your supervisor. You may be fortunate to have supervisors that will provide that to you, or you may gather the knowledge from with peers. That's why we have peers networks here. You have to work together. You have to work together with your peers and all of that. So then you have to also build your career, build skills and networks, and extend that beyond postgraduate research into diverse career paths. So embrace the challenge, engage deeply with theory and scientific research for transformation, develop critical skills, contribute meaningfully, and for lifelong pursuits. Remember that the pursuit of understanding extends throughout your academic and professional profile. This is where we're going to end today. I'm going to make this PowerPoint available on our platform immediately after now, and we'll be good to go. So, any 1 or 2 questions? Any comments? Any contributions before we leave? You can
I
raise
have
your.
a question, sir.
Okay.
Sir, you mentioned that we could publish papers while we are
Yes,
still gathering the total report for
it's
thesis.
definite.
But
Definitely.
if, if we do that, our plagiarism check will be very high.
No, no, it will not be I because the plagiarism, what do we call it? That's a very good question. Let me tell you. Very good question. That is why the the plagiarism tool, there is always there is a place where it will give them the detail about the plagiarism, where maybe 1% in particular university, 10% somewhere, and another 40%, 50% somewhere. So that's why if you have done that, the I don't know whether you have done that plagiarism test before, you will see the analysis.
Yes, sir.
Now, once they see that this is your work, they already know that this is your work and that should be waived. And I think it's a question that the library has to understand very well. I quite agree. I think somebody was asking that question somewhere as well. And that should not limit you from publishing. So if you have published and you conduct plagiarism test and it's saying that this is coming from the same work that you produced, then it's not self-plagiarism. It's not. I don't see that as a person, I don't see that as plagiarism.
But
You
I
know?
don't think library understands yet.
Yes, they have to. They have to. So that should not deter you from and I think I also speak with the PG College. So I think they have a stand on this so that they make it available to the students as well as to what it is. and I will also discuss with the provost as well, so that because that's a very important question, so that at least they will know what is available regarding that. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, any other one?
Hello, Prof.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. I think plagiarism has to do with a lack of proper referencing. If one adequately references whatever books or material or text he has used, will still there be a penalty over plagiarism?
Plagiarism is not that you did not reference. Plagiarism is about
Okay,
copy and paste. When you copy
okay,
verbatim the word that somebody else has used in his work, and you put it in your work as if though it was designed by you. Some people may put
okay,
another thing that they copy somewhere verbatim and paste and still put the reference there. That's not enough for you to say that it's not plagiarism. You cannot use word
okay.
for word another word that belongs to another person directly. That's why PhD is very easy. What am I saying? When you see that you have read and you like that statement, then you rephrase. It is not paraphrase because there are tools to paraphrase. The plagiarism tool will see the paraphrasing. So use your own English. That's why we won't accept postgraduate college will not give admission to PhD student that does not have at least last credit in English. You will know how to rephrase words by yourself, construct, and put words together. So that's why you have about 365 days times 3 years to write your thesis. So if you are putting all of this half a page in a day, you will have written more than 700 pages self in 2 years. You know,
Okay.
you will have written more than 700. If you make it a point of this, okay, let me just read. You can just be a quarter. Don't even write half of a page. If you write a quarter of a page on a daily basis, which is me when I want to publish, I don't go to plagiarism check because I already know that the content of my paper is my work is coming from my head. Maybe because I know how to type. These are some of the skills that you are expected to also bring on board. I learned typing ASDFGF School of LKG HJ. I went to typing whatever to learn that when I finished my secondary school before I gained admission. So today I type. So the same way you can, if you don't know how to type, you can begin to learn today. Gone are the days that we used to write our thesis on paper and give to typists to type for us. No, as a postgraduate student, whether master's or PhD, you must have your own laptop that you work with and be picking those words little by little, little by little. It is an ocean cannot become an ocean. It has to be little here and there, little rivers flowing here and there that will make an ocean. So it's the same way when you're writing your thesis. So if you have anything that you have read somewhere, don't just copy and paste it. If you understand what is written there, rewrite it in your own way and hone what you have written. Yes, Dorcas Bakari,
Thank you, Prof.
you're welcome.
Yes, sir. This is as regards the theory. For
Okay.
example, I would like to know how to answer this better. If there is a particular theory for a particular arm of whatever you study, for example, there is a theory that is mainly for forensic linguistics. That's what it's even called. This
Okay.
particular strand of forensic linguistics, and you want to bring it into feminist linguistics
Okay.
because it has the tools, not because it is more about law or even psycholinguistics. It's not because it's about law or crime, but because it deals with the mind and you feel like the tools will work perfectly. How would you explain it to your examiners or even to oneself? And there are times where they will suggest to you that, oh, why don't you use any of those tools available? But the only explanation you can have as at that time is that it's bringing newness. Is there a better way to explain it?
Now, it depends. If that is the only thing is bringing, and that is what exists in literature, you tell them that's the only thing that is available to you that you want to bring on the table. Now, if you have additional knowledge regarding what that's your method will bring to the table as well, there are so many ways by which you can contribute to knowledge, for example. It can be methodical contribution. It can also be in the context of maybe the data you want to collect. It can also be that you want to change the entire landscape of what people used to know. Then in that case, we call that kind of innovation, we call it radical. Maybe you want to bring a radical change into what you used to know previously. Yes. And you have some theories to back that up. Why not? You can also present that as well in your contribution, that this is what I'm also bringing to the table in this contest. So you are the owner of your work. And that's why anytime you want to do defense, maybe you're qualifying, we will first of all listen to you. Explain what you want to do. That's what to do. We won't just begin to hammer you or ask questions if we have not listened to you. Even after we have read your thesis, maybe for qualifying or defense, we will still want you to speak to it, because our understanding what we have read may be different from the way you, the owner of the work, want to explain it. So you own your work. Whatever you say, if you have done your homework very well and you have references for that, whatever you say is correct. If you have authorities, that's what I mean. If you have authorities to back your state, that's why any statement you are making in PhD, in any portion of your thesis, must be authoritative. And when we say authoritative, you must have a reference. Who says this? When was it? When did they say this? When was this used? If it is a record of what exists from 20, 30 years ago, that is fine. You can quote that. But at the same time, you must also use recent document, because somebody will tell you that that is what they used to do. That thing is obsolete now. The last time we used it was 30, 40 years ago. Is no more relevant. But you tell them that so person in 2024 adopted that currently, and he added this context to it. And that is the angle I am coming from. Do you get the analogy? Does that satisfy
Yes, sir.
that question?
Yes, I does. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, somebody else, Abraham Okunade. You
Yes,
have the
sir.
floor.
Thank you, Prof. Two questions, sir.
Okay?
The first one is, I want more explanation on the last semester. We talk about theoretical framework and conceptual framework.
Yes.
And today we are talking about theory and scientific research.
Yes.
Is there any similarity or differences between the two?
Oh, no, theory will remain theory anywhere, anytime in the world. Do you get? But
Yes,
what we
sir.
have stratified that your thesis into theoretical framework, conceptual framework, and what do we call it now? And the empirical framework.
Empirical.
Thank you. So what that is saying is all your theories, you have to concentrate it, discuss them together in your
Okay, sir.
thesis as a whole together. All the theories maybe it may not be the theories you want to use alone. Because if you are just discussing only 2 or 3 theories you want to use alone, that may not be sufficient. In fact, I was in an exam I think last week, and the candidates only talked about only one theory alone that is intending to use. That's not sufficient for the discussion under your theoretical framework. You have to discuss other related theories. You may not be adopting that in your work, but then they are related to your work. You can discuss like 8 theories which are related, but then now extract only 3 out of that, because any theory you want to use in your work, as you mentioned them in the literature review under that environment, all the elements must show in your methodology. The elements of those theory as well must also appear in your results and discussion. So that is the flow. But all other ones that you don't want to adopt that you have discussed, you can leave them there and not bring their elements into other parts of the work. So like the conceptual as well, we already described what conceptual is. As you are describing that as well, you can put that in one aspect, and then your empirical as well is also standing alone, which is more about the empirical evidences that exist in your literature. So all of these things, they flow together. So they are there are 12 that has to be discussed.
All
So
right.
does that
Thank you.
satisfy that? You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Secondly, sir,
Okay.
is there any calendar for this cluster 5?
Is there any?
Calendar, just like we had calendar last semester.
Of course, we do. We have calendar for all the for the for the for the for the courses, and that will be made available to you in the course of the week before next week, before next class.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, any other one or two more questions before we go? Okay, in the absence of none, I hope you have. Okay, somebody. Okay, I hope you have dropped your attendance.
Hello, my prof.
Okay, yes.
My prof, Olado Koseko is written up and please. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
please
I want
go
to
on.
appreciate you. The lecture is very, very good. And time for the improvements,
Thank
like
you.
the 901. In fact, this one is well done. God bless you, sir. My
Thank you.
question now is that when you started the lecture, you
Yes.
said we have been stratified into clusters,
Yes.
which I think I belong to cluster 5, which is this last. Art, law, EDM, and education. Then
Yes.
you made mention of, is it all the department in education that is under this cluster, or there are some that are not? Like for instance, I belong to educational foundation. Am I in the right place?
Let me. I think I said. They said art related. Let me see. Education is. Let me share this with you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Can you see? I think you can see my screen.
You can see
You can see art
education
law.
art-based program.
Yes, art-based education programs. It's you guys that will understand that.
Okay. Okay, I will
For me,
find out in the department.
yes, please.
I will find
So,
out from my HOD.
okay,
Thank you so
that's
much,
what we
sir.
have. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon.
Abiola is my name. Please, I
Okay.
want to kindly ask if we are still going to be operating through the Moodle application.
No,
All right.
no.
All right. Thank you, sir.
That's only for 901.
All right, sir.
But although people coming after you, we may adopt that for them. But I think for this semester, we're not using the Moodle. So whatever you're going to do is going to be within your cluster. Everything you're going to do is within your. So all the courses we are going to be throwing them to us in the Telegram platform. Who is just
Hello,
entering
sir.
and they are sending attendance? Who are those people that are just entering and I will look at the time. Oh. Some people are just
Sir.
coming in and they are just sending the attendance. Yes,
Hello, sir.
I'm with you.
Yeah, this is agility, sir.
Okay.
Because of network problem, I've been following your teaching since. But the issue at time, because you repeated it just now, that reason why I want you to take note of this. The network is not the same everywhere. Some have problem. In fact, I have to recharge on another SIM to follow you. The thing has been breaking and I will be coming back, breaking and coming back. I have to use another SIM so that I can follow you.
Do you know that's not an excuse? Can I tell you why? The reason is you already know that this thing is set and it's going to be online. So if I were you, if the network is bad in your location, you move to a location for that 2 hours where you're going to get perfect connection. And let me tell you, if you want to do anything, whether through Telegram or anything online, scale your connection on your phone to 3G. Forget 4G, 5G. 3G will give you best experience. Always look, you can ask anybody who knows how to do that to teach you how to scale down your connection to 3G. At that point, ensure you do it on 3G because this excuse will not be taken for attendance. I'm telling you that I could not connect. That I could not connect is not an excuse. That's why, because of you want you to be taking your classes at the comfort of your homes or wherever offices, wherever you are. We don't have to bring you to the university here to do a four-wall teaching in the classroom. That's why we have said that it's going to be online. And this has been in existence for some years. So I may pardon anybody that is submitting the attendance late, no problem for today. But it's not going to be like that henceforth. Thank you. Okay, so any one last question or comment or concern? Okay, in the absence of none, I'll be dropping these notes in the platform immediately after now. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
sir.
sir.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.